What's up, guys? Welcome back to Healthy Recipe. We're going to be making a super simple linguine pasta with some pesto sauce that I'm going to make in a mortar and pestle with oregano from our garden. It's going to be delicious. It's going to have fresh kale and tomatoes from the garden also. Super simple to make and super tasty and healthy. So let's get right to work. Okay, so let's look over what we're using for ingredients today. Over here we have some curly leaf kale from the garden. This stuff is super hardy even in our Florida heat. It has this really nice like rough edges on it, and it prevents it from wilting in the heat. It's also hardy in the winter. Super great all around thing to grow. It grows really good here and also in cold weather. I'm using a half of a bell pepper that I got from the farmer's market. I'm actually planting these for the spring. I have seeds in the ground now, so hopefully we'll have a lot more of these in the garden. These are some of my heirloom tomatoes. The smaller ones I use for chopping up and for making sauces and things like that. The bigger ones I use for salads. So I got about maybe a pound of heirloom tomatoes, 1/2 of a white onion, 3 cloves of garlic. I got 1 pound of organic linguine. I believe this is Aldi's brand, Simply Nature. 1 bunch of our oregano from the garden, and this stuff is absolutely delicious, super aromatic, and super hardy. We've been growing this stuff for about a year now. And the last but not least of all ingredients is organic olive oil. This bottle specifically is from Sam's Club. I believe this is their brand. But you know, you can find olive oil organic just about anywhere these days. So first thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take the linguine and put it in a pot of boiling water with some salt. Alright, so we're just gonna set this in and let it cook. So we're gonna let this cook, and while that's cooking, we're gonna go ahead and start working on our pesto on the mortar. Go ahead and take the 3 cloves of garlic, just kind of crush them down, peel them. I personally like to cut both ends. I'm gonna go ahead and throw them in the mortar. Okay, so I'm gonna add the garlic to the mortar, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add some fresh oregano. And basically with the oregano, this is what you do. You just take it like this, and this is a sprig. You pull it down, and the leaves come out just like that. You're just going to pull all of the stems. Just like that. And that should be enough to get us a lot of flavor for that 1 pound of linguine. So we're going to go ahead and put that in. Now we're going to add about 2 tablespoons or so of olive oil. About a teaspoon of salt. And we're going to go ahead and mash this into a paste. If you don't have a mortar and pestle, you could actually use a food processor to do this. I just love the mortar and pestle method because it crushes the cells, and I feel like it gives a better emulsion of the ingredients. But you can certainly use a food processor, maybe even like a small blender, to do this process. So basically this is what the consistency that we want. kind of like a paste. And we're gonna set this aside. Now I'm gonna chop our other ingredients and we're gonna start sauteing them. Alright, so with our kale, what I like to do is remove this middle rib, which is what has a lot of the bitterness. And what I'll do with this is I'll use this rib for my vegetable stock. And once I get the vegetable stock, I use that for composting for my garden. So it all goes right back into the garden. What I like to do with the kale is I bunch it all up as tight as I can with one hand. Just like that. And then I just slice it. Set that aside for a second. I gotta do something to it. Okay. So with the bell pepper, basically what I like to do is just kind of cut it into 2 segments. And then on the rough side, on the inside, I cut it into little sticks or batons. And then I will dice it across, just into small little pieces so it distributes throughout the recipe. And it gives some nice red color throughout. Now the onion, just peel that outer layer. And go ahead and dice it also into small. Alright, so the tomatoes we're just going to dice the same. Cut the ends down the middle. Rough chop. Okay, so now we kind of come over to our stock pot, or I guess this is Dutch oven that we're using. I'm going to go to 350 degrees. I'm going to drop about a tablespoon of olive oil in. And while that's heating up, we're going to go ahead and go over to the pasta. I'm going to save about 1 ladle of the pasta sauce. And this is going to help to thicken, maybe a little bit more, a ladle and a half. It's going to help to thicken our pesto sauce. Now I'm going to go ahead and drain this, and we're going to go back to the pot. Alright, now that we got our oil nice and hot, I'm going to go ahead and drop our onion and some of our other ingredients in. Start sauteing them. Tomatoes. Alright, so now that we got this down quite a bit and it's reduced, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of that pasta water. And that pasta water has got a lot of the starch, and it acts as kind of like a thickener. and it's gonna help marry all those flavors together while thickening. Mix it in nicely. So all that garlic and oregano spreads into a nice mixture. Got a little bit more of that pasta water in. So you can see it's getting nice and thick from the pasta water. Now I'm going to go ahead and drop our linguine in. And what I'd like to do here is take a pair of tongs and just kind of spread everything around. Pull the noodles up so everything gets coated. And at this point you can shut off the heat. This smells incredibly delicious, garlicky. You can smell that fresh oregano that's been crushed, and it's now all over this linguine, adding a ton of flavor. And at this point you're pretty much done. You can add a little bit of salt just to taste and serve. Look at all that color and how beautiful this simple dish looks. So now we're going to go ahead and plate, serve it with a slice of a freshly baked crusty artisan bread. If you guys want the recipe for this bread, it was the recipe before this, and I'll also link it on the tabs above. And that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Give us a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already for more healthy, all natural recipes like this. And I'll see you guys really soon on the next one. Alright, so here comes the moment of truth. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a taste. Let you guys know how I feel. Wow. Super garlicky. The fresh oregano is the star of the show. Absolutely phenomenal. The linguine is cooked just right. The kale is nice and soft, but it's not mushy. Wow. With a nice piece of bread behind it. Simple and delicious. I invite you guys to try this recipe.